If your creatinine levels have been coming back high on your blood tests, and your doctor has told you to watch your diet, this video is going to give you the most practical and specific information you have probably received so far on what to actually eat and why. High creatinine is not just a number on a lab report. It is a signal from your body that your kidneys are under more stress than they should be, and how seriously you take that signal and how quickly you act on it can have a real impact on how your kidney health progresses from this point forward. We are going to go through 5 specific foods that research and kidney health specialists consistently point to as supportive for people managing elevated creatinine, explain exactly why each one helps, and give you the practical details about how much and how often. Stay with us until the end, because the 5th food on this list is one that almost nobody with kidney concerns is eating, and the research behind what it does for kidney function is genuinely striking. Before we get into the 5 foods, let's make sure we understand what creatinine actually is and why it matters, because this context transforms everything that follows from simple dietary advice into something that makes real physiological sense. Creatinine is a waste product that is generated naturally in your muscles as they use energy. Every time your muscles contract and use a chemical called creatine phosphate for fuel, creatinine is produced as a byproduct. This creatinine enters the bloodstream and is then filtered out by the kidneys and excreted in urine. In a healthy person with well-functioning kidneys, this filtration happens continuously and efficiently, keeping blood creatinine levels within a normal range. When creatinine levels rise above normal, it is almost always because the kidneys are not filtering blood as efficiently as they should be. This reduced filtration efficiency is measured by a calculation called eGFR, or estimated glomerular filtration rate, and a rising creatinine accompanied by a falling eGFR is the primary early warning system that kidney function is declining. Why does this matter so urgently? Because kidney disease is one of the most silently progressive conditions that exists. The kidneys have enormous reserve capacity, meaning that by the time creatinine rises noticeably and eGFR begins falling significantly, a meaningful portion of kidney function has already been lost. Unlike many conditions where the body sends pain or obvious symptoms to signal a problem, kidney disease typically announces itself only through blood and urine tests, which is why people who are not getting regular kidney function testing often discover advanced kidney disease without any prior warning. The good news is that the rate of kidney function decline is highly modifiable through diet, hydration, blood pressure management, and other lifestyle factors. Someone who receives an elevated creatinine result and immediately takes serious action on diet and lifestyle can often slow the progression of kidney function decline significantly compared to someone who waits and sees. This is why acting quickly on the information in this video matters, and why the urgency in the title is not exaggerated. The first food that kidney specialists and research consistently recommend for people with elevated creatinine is cauliflower. This might seem like an unexpected first choice, but cauliflower has a specific profile that makes it particularly well-suited for kidney health. It is low in potassium, low in phosphorus, and low in sodium, 3 minerals that diseased kidneys struggle to regulate properly. For people with elevated creatinine, managing these 3 minerals becomes increasingly important as kidney function declines, because the kidneys that are already struggling to filter creatinine are also less able to maintain the balance of these electrolytes. Beyond its mineral profile, cauliflower is rich in vitamin C, folate, and fiber, and contains anti-inflammatory compounds called glucosinolates that have been studied for their potential protective effects on organ health. Cauliflower is also extraordinarily versatile in the kitchen, functioning as a lower phosphorus, lower potassium substitute for potatoes, rice, and grains in many dishes, making it one of the most practical single foods for someone trying to adapt their diet for kidney health without sacrificing variety or satisfaction. The second food is red bell peppers, and their inclusion in this list comes from a specific nutritional profile that is almost uniquely suited to the needs of someone managing kidney concerns. Red bell peppers are exceptionally high in vitamins C and A, both powerful antioxidants, while being very low in potassium compared to most other brightly colored vegetables. They also contain lycopene, a carotenoid with anti-inflammatory properties that has been studied in the context of kidney protection. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the primary drivers of kidney disease progression because inflammatory signals damage the delicate filtration structures inside the kidneys over time. Providing the body with a steady supply of anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds through diet is one of the most practical ways to reduce this inflammatory burden on kidneys that are already under stress. Red bell peppers deliver this anti-inflammatory nutritional value in a kidney-friendly package that does not add to the potassium or phosphorus burden that the struggling kidney is already managing. The third food is cabbage, which shares some of the kidney-friendly properties of cauliflower but offers additional specific benefits that make it worth highlighting separately. Cabbage is low in potassium and phosphorus, making it safe for kidneys managing electrolyte balance. But beyond its favorable mineral profile, cabbage contains a range of phytochemicals including indoles and isothiocyanates that have been studied for their anti-inflammatory effects and their potential to support the body's own protective responses at the cellular level. Cabbage also contains compounds that may support gut health by feeding beneficial gut bacteria, and the gut-kidney connection is an increasingly recognized area of research, with evidence suggesting that a healthy gut microbiome may reduce the amount of uremic toxins that accumulate when kidney filtration is impaired. Fermented cabbage in the form of sauerkraut extends these gut health benefits further and is worth considering as a practical way to incorporate cabbage regularly. The fourth food is egg whites, and this choice addresses one of the most nuanced and important dietary considerations for someone with elevated creatinine, which is protein intake. Creatinine is produced when muscles metabolize creatine, and high-protein diets increase creatinine production simply because more protein metabolism produces more metabolic byproducts that the kidneys must filter. However, reducing protein too aggressively can cause muscle wasting, which carries its own serious health consequences. The solution that kidney specialists consistently recommend is not eliminating protein but rather choosing protein sources that are high quality and metabolically efficient. Egg whites are one of the highest quality protein sources available by this measure. They provide complete protein with all essential amino acids, very little phosphorus compared to egg yolks, virtually no fat, and a high biological value, meaning the body uses them very efficiently with minimal metabolic waste. For someone managing elevated creatinine who needs to moderate their protein intake without compromising their overall nutritional status, egg whites represent one of the most practically valuable protein choices available. The fifth food, and the one that surprises almost everyone, is a specific category of berries, particularly cranberries and blueberries. Cranberries deserve special mention in the kidney health context because they contain compounds called proanthocyanidins that have been studied for their effects on the urinary tract, where they appear to reduce the ability of certain bacteria to adhere to the walls of the urinary tract and the kidneys themselves. Urinary tract infections are a significant complication for people with reduced kidney function because the kidneys that are already compromised are more vulnerable to the additional damage that infection can cause. Beyond the antimicrobial effects, cranberries and blueberries are both low in potassium relative to their antioxidant content, meaning they provide a significant anti-inflammatory and antioxidant benefit in a kidney-friendly nutritional package. Blueberries specifically contain anthocyanins, some of the most potent natural anti-inflammatory compounds studied in nutritional science, and their potential role in reducing the oxidative stress and inflammation that accelerate kidney disease progression makes them one of the most research-supported berry choices for this population. Now let's talk about what to avoid just as urgently as what to eat, because for someone with elevated creatinine, certain common foods can rapidly worsen the situation in ways that even the best dietary choices cannot compensate for. Red meat consumption is one of the most direct dietary contributors to elevated creatinine for two reasons. First, red meat contains significant amounts of creatine, the precursor that muscles convert into creatinine, meaning that eating red meat directly increases the creatinine load the kidneys must filter. Second, red meat is high in protein that produces more metabolic byproducts per gram than most other protein sources. Many people with elevated creatinine who make no other dietary change but significantly reduce their red meat intakes see meaningful improvements in their creatinine levels within weeks. Processed and packaged foods are another major category to reduce aggressively because they are typically extremely high in sodium and phosphorus, two minerals that the already stressed kidney struggles to regulate. And adequate but not excessive hydration with clean water is one of the most important and simplest daily practices for kidney health. Physical activity is another factor that interacts with creatinine in a way that many people are not aware of. Intense physical exercise temporarily raises creatinine levels because it increases muscle breakdown and creatine metabolism. For someone already managing elevated creatinine, very high-intensity exercise adds to the creatinine burden in ways that are counterproductive. Moderate, consistent physical activity that maintains muscle health without causing excessive breakdown is the goal, and activities like walking, swimming, gentle cycling, and light resistance training offer the metabolic and cardiovascular benefits of physical activity without the creatinine-raising effect of high-intensity exercise. The blood pressure connection also deserves specific mention, because high blood pressure and elevated creatinine exist in a dangerous reinforcing cycle. High blood pressure damages the tiny blood vessels inside the kidneys called glomeruli, reducing their filtration capacity and causing creatinine to rise. As kidney function declines, the kidneys become less effective at regulating blood pressure, causing blood pressure to rise further. The dietary changes that support kidney health, reducing sodium, increasing plant-based foods, and managing protein intake, also tend to support better blood pressure control, making diet one of the most powerful levers available for interrupting this destructive cycle. Let's go deeper on the mechanisms behind why these specific foods help, because understanding the biology makes the dietary changes feel far more motivated and more sustainable than simply following a list without knowing why. Starting with the inflammation connection, which is arguably the most important single mechanism in kidney disease progression. The kidneys contain millions of tiny filtering units called nephrons, each of which includes a tiny blood vessel cluster called a glomerulus through which blood is filtered. These glomeruli are surrounded by immune cells that, when activated by chronic inflammation, produce signals that damage the glomerular structure and reduce its filtration efficiency. Anti-inflammatory compounds in food, including the lycopene in red bell peppers, the anthocyanins in blueberries and cranberries, and the glucosinolates in cauliflower and cabbage, reduce the inflammatory signals that activate these immune cells and damage glomerular tissue. The relationship between dietary inflammation and kidney disease progression has been studied in human populations, and the evidence consistently finds that diets higher in anti-inflammatory plant compounds are associated with slower kidney function decline. The oxidative stress mechanism is equally important and equally addressable through diet. The kidneys are particularly vulnerable to oxidative damage because of the enormous volume of blood they filter and the high metabolic demands of the filtration process. Providing the body with a rich and diverse supply of dietary antioxidants through the 5 foods we have discussed, and more broadly through a diet rich in colorful vegetables and plant-based foods, directly supports the antioxidant capacity of kidney cells and may slow the oxidative damage that accelerates disease progression. The protein quality issue deserves a dedicated expansion as well. The relationship between protein intake and creatinine depends on the quantity of protein consumed, the quality and type of protein, and the individual's level of kidney function decline. Research has generally found that reducing animal protein intake, particularly red and processed meat, while maintaining adequate total protein from higher quality, lower waste sources produces better kidney health outcomes than simply cutting total protein. Plant proteins in particular appear to be handled by the kidneys with less metabolic strain than animal proteins, producing fewer of the acidic waste products that the kidneys must buffer and excrete. Finally, the gut microbiome connection to kidney health is an emerging area of research that is increasingly informing dietary recommendations for people with kidney concerns. A disrupted gut microbiome, which is common in people with kidney disease, can increase the production of uremic toxins that accumulate when kidney filtration is impaired and that contribute to further kidney damage. The fiber in cauliflower, cabbage, and the other plant-based foods we have discussed feeds the beneficial gut bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids and compete against the bacteria that produce uremic toxins. Supporting a healthy, diverse gut microbiome through a fiber-rich, plant-forward diet is therefore not just good for digestive health but directly relevant to reducing the toxic burden that compromised kidneys must manage. Before we close, it is essential to say clearly that this video is for general educational and nutritional awareness only. Elevated creatinine is a medical condition that requires ongoing medical supervision and dietary changes, while genuinely important and supported by research, are one component of a comprehensive management approach that should be guided by a doctor and ideally a registered dietitian with expertise in kidney disease. Do not make significant dietary changes without discussing them with your healthcare team, particularly if you are already on medications that affect kidney function or electrolyte balance. If this video gave you practical, specific information that you feel could make a real difference for someone managing kidney health concerns, please share it, because this is exactly the kind of focused, actionable guidance that most people in this situation need and rarely receive clearly enough to act on. If you found this video helpful, please like it and subscribe to Dr. William Hart Health for more videos like this every day.